There's a lot going on right now. Mounting economic inequality, threats to democracy, environmental disaster, the sour stench of chaos in the air. I'm Brooke Gladstone, host of WNYC's On the Media. Want to understand the reasons and the meanings of the narratives that led us here, and maybe how to head them off at the pass? That's On the Media's specialty. Take a listen wherever you get your podcasts.
You come to the New Yorker Radio Hour for conversations that go deeper with people you really want to hear from, whether it's Bruce Springsteen or Questlove or Olivia Rodrigo, Liz Cheney, or the godfather of artificial intelligence, Geoffrey Hinton, or some of my extraordinarily well-informed colleagues at The New Yorker. So join us every week on the New Yorker Radio Hour, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Let's hang out. Let's hang out. And let's talk about what lessons are found. Let's hang out. And let's listen to two lesbians shout. Let's hang out. Let's hang out.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Let's Hang Out, the podcast that's not sorry, for fucking up your life. I'm your host from the West Coast, Lee Holmes Foster.
And from the East Coast, I'm Ellie Brigida, and we are so excited to bring you episode 11 of season 2, Most Likely to Be Queer, with Alyson Stoner. To those of you who have been with us through this whole journey, thank you as always for listening. If you're a new listener, welcome. We're excited to have you here. And here's what's happening this week.
This week in the Lesdom.
This week in the Lesdom is somewhere that we can touch base every episode to chat about what's happening with the podcast, with our lives, with the greater Les universe. As always, we are going to kick this segment right off with our New York show. It's coming up so soon.
We are so excited. We have seen an influx of ticket sales this week, and we're super pumped about it. So
yes.
We hope to see you all there in Brooklyn at the Bell House, February 18th. And we have all of our guests solidified.
Have our lineup. Are super excited to be joined by Jess Tom, Elsa Waith, and our favorite, Carolyn Bergier. They are all three going to be there, and we are super excited for all of the fun should have been gays that we're going to be talking about. So do not miss it. Come hang out.
Yes. And we also are going to be doing a live show at Klexicon. So if you're coming to Klexicon, we would love to see you there. We're also super pumped about that, and hopefully you'll see some of your favorites as guests. We're still working on it, but it will be great.
We also are announcing still our Taboo Toys contest has been extended through February 1st. So if you have tickets to the live show, send us a picture of those tickets. You could enter to win a She scissoring vibrator. If you have pictures of you, and possibly with some other people, post those pictures. Tag us. Tag @BuyTabooToys. You could win a Swacom Luna and Celine vibrating remote bullet combo. So do not miss out. Thank you, Taboo Toys. They want to give you all sorts of fun toys.
And so do we.
That are taboo.
Yes. And in the greater Les universe, the L Word just turned 15.
It's crazy.
That is so insane.
What a trip.
We posted all over our social media. People have been commenting about their experiences with the L Word. I know for me, it was a really big part of my coming out process. I know a lot of you feel the same way. So it's just crazy. We'd love to celebrate it. We also did have someone post about watching the L Word like last year or something for the first time and talking about how problematic and how...
Like so many things, it hasn't aged well.
It has not aged very well, but I choose to love it for giving me a group of women who were all gay that I could be like, wait, this is normal. And that was a big deal. And I think still is a big deal. We don't really have another show quite like the L Word.
Except for the L Word reboot, right?
Yes, which, here we go.
There's no other show like the L Word except for the L Word. There you go.
Yes. And with that, back to you, Ellie and Lee.
Thanks, Ellie and Lee. So, as we said, we are so excited this week. We are talking to multi-hyphenated entertainer and activist Alyson Stoner. Alyson, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. That's quite the introduction.
Multi-hyphenated is the best description for Alyson. You do so many things. Do you want to just give a quick bullet point list of all the things that you're doing?
Wow. The resume
pressure.
goes as follows. I'd say the easy ones are acting, singing, and dancing. And that spins off into directing, editing, research, composing. It's kind of whatever you need to do as a freelance artist to get through the day and pay rent, but also expand your mind. So I have, hobbies like studying neuroscience on the side. Just try to keep
How
it
do you
interesting.
study neuroscience on the side? Like reading books, or you take classes?
So thankfully I have very smart friends and I use their textbooks and references, or I'll go and read like peer-reviewed journals and articles, essays, the casual norm.
That's super cool.
I mean, yes. I feel like I can say yes. I totally get that.
Yeah, at least
As the nerd of this pair, yeah. I feel you. Why neuroscience specifically?
Well, as we'll get into it, I'm sure, I come from a family that was pretty chaotic, had plenty of dysfunction, and I think just being in survival mode forced me to learn a lot about myself and my inner wiring. And I opted for that scientific route because I think it helped me kind of put some of the emotional trauma to the side and just look at things in a formulaic manner. But then over time, it just grew more and more fascinating to me. And I ended up working with an emotional intelligence development app and like music supervising, writing music that would help kids understand lessons melodically and structurally. And it's just kind of like a beautiful interface between art and science, and anything I can do to make kids and people more interested in how things work, I feel like is not a bad use of my time and energy.
Nice.
very cool.
Very cool.
Well, some of you in our audience probably know Alyson from a multitude of things. Dancing in Missy Elliott's Work It video, of course. Cheaper by the Dozen. She was on a bunch of Disney Channel things. And now she has an amazing YouTube channel. And we are here to talk to her about her journey with her sexuality, of course, right?
Yay! Lesbians!
Yay! I mean, I think most of you have seen her Teen Vogue article. I read it and immediately wanted to reach out. I reached out, I think, like the second after I read the article, and it's taken us a while to get to this point. But I'm so happy that you're here to talk to us.
Yes, me too. Bring it on.
Yeah.
Let's talk.
The article was awesome, and it was you just were very honest and open, and I think that's a really hard thing to do with like one person, let alone here, let me put this out to the whole world. So
right.
Absolutely.
Well, so Teen Vogue approached and offered the option of doing an interview or having me write the story myself. And I knew in less than a tenth of a second that I would be penning it. I've always been an avid writer, so I trusted my ability to structure the story and articulate the different moments appropriately. And also by that point, I'd written a dozen songs about the relationship, 1,000, diary entries and a million texts to people about her. So, all the information was at my fingertips and it was fairly processed and refined. And the story itself actually took place several years ago. I waited because I didn't want to react impulsively. I wanted to be completely capable of handling the inevitable criticism. But I'm really glad that the editor didn't. There were a few blurbs that they were like, all right, if you're not prepared to prove that this happened, then you can't share it. Because there are a lot of layers to the story that run even deeper than the article. Specifically, one about being in church. That was where they were like, all right, if you don't want to go into this, you probably shouldn't mention spirituality. And I said, no, this cannot be removed because this is precisely what's going to send thousands of people to my DMs, as it did, saying, I feel this, I understand it, I live it, please help, so they don't feel as alone. So yeah, I mean, I don't think any of us knew that the article would go viral in that way, but I'm so glad that it really came from my fingertips. Truly.
Yeah, you mentioned in the article that it had been, years, working through it yourself, coming to terms with everything, therapy, prayer, like all of this stuff. When did this all sort of like start, like that realization to like the Teen Vogue article? I mean, that it seems like there was like a decent chunk of time, which I think is something that most people in the queer community really relate to, that it's like, it's not like you just wake up one morning and you're like, oh, I'm like totally gay. How cool.
I'm gay today. Hey.
Yeah. Who knew? I mean, it's like, there's a lot of time and work and like stuff that goes into that, you know?
Yes, I think there came a point where I wouldn't be able to honestly tell stories in my art and career without mentioning her. I knew I'd eventually slip up in an interview and I would use a female pronoun and be at the mercy of the public speculating as opposed to having control over the narrative. And, some artists intentionally use that controversial angle. That's just never been my MO. And secondly, I was also facing pressure from within the relationship to prove I wasn't afraid or ashamed of showing my affection, which is understandable. No one wants to feel hidden. And, I ended up waiting years. The tricky thing about having a platform is you're constantly choosing between protecting your own privacy, which ultimately protects your loved ones, whether they can appreciate that or not. Some feel hidden and some are like, oh, thank God, I don't have to deal with it. Or opening up to the world in the hopes of inspiring or affecting a mass amount of people on a topic. So it was sort of a combination of events, especially acknowledging the discrimination of the community politically, socially, etc., that I felt ready to share this part of my life. And that really opened the floodgates. I'm not sure I was quite prepared.
Yeah. When you say open the floodgates, like how many people reached out to you, or what were some that really stuck out is probably an easier question.
Word. Yeah. The response was a mixed bag. Having come from the church, I got messages every day praying for me and begging for me to see the light of Jesus. I also received just as many messages from kids struggling with their sexuality in the church, kids of pastors often, and they said they felt less alone. And then I had the out and proud lesbians treating me like the normal human I am, thank God. And I'll say I wish I had a better sense of humor about it, but it kind of disturbs me to repeatedly see people saying that they knew I was gay or queer based on the roles I played. And, like, first of all, I have no say in the roles I book. And oftentimes for child actors, if one thing works, then that becomes your stereotype. I mean, there were numerous girly girls who played Butch because one character became popular, and it doesn't always correlate to their personal reality. And that's why we're actors for a reason. And then secondly, obviously how I dress does not automatically guarantee a certain sexual orientation, even if there are trends and overlaps, but it's like my sports teams growing up were almost entirely made up of straight women, save one or two girls. And the dance community wears sweats and baggy clothes. And trust me, plenty of people are straight and homophobic, no matter how they present themselves. So
I'm sorry, did you not get the uniform memo when you came out? Someone should be sending that to you shortly. Don't worry about it.
Right? It's like, just having people comment on something that you didn't know about yourself as if they're an expert, it kind of, it hurts. I know it's supposed to be funny, but this took a hell of a lot of pain and suffering to unpack religion, be cut off from loved ones, and experience tremendous hurt in relationships. You're so confused, you're going through your identity crisis, and I try to make fun of myself and be lighthearted, but damn, those years were the worst and hardest. And I want to stay available and sensitive to the people, that one person in the back of the room who's not yet joking along because they're not yet out and proud and self-accepting.
Yeah. There's so many things that surround your whole story, right? Because it's not, I mean, first of all, coming out publicly, as a public figure is always tough to begin with. There's a lot that's going to factor into that. And then I think on top of that, it's not just coming out as a public figure, it's coming out as someone who's a child star. Like, there's so much that I assume has to factor into that, you know, where it's like you're already trying to fight this view of like escaping the childhood stage of your career.
Right.
You know, and that's something that's also really hard because it's something we talk about that comes up on the podcast a lot, is like any type of like sexuality, whether it's being gay, whether it's being bi, whether it's like being pan, whether it's, you know, other like queer identities, like being trans, being non-binary, like all of these things get so hyper sexualized in society, you know? And so it's like, as soon as you start mixing that with like anything that has any involvement with like kids, like that gets really complicated also.
Yes. Yeah.
What has that been like when you're doing that? Like, you're trying to like transition from like one career to like now being like a grown-ass adult with a career that's like a totally different thing, you know? And like doing that and then also trying to like have this whole new part of yourself that like people have to add on top of that.
Yeah, I guess. So I guess painting some context might be helpful. I have to remember that as an artist in the public eye, I am considered a product and a brand first, and I am not perceived as Alyson the human. I am a mirror for the audience to see themselves and project their own experiences and beliefs onto me. So to one person, I'm a hero. The next, I'm the devil. To some, I'm sincere. Others, I'm fake. You know, many people hate me because I look like their crush, or I worked with their crush, or I look like their ex. And, you know, others love me because they went through something similar to my character that I, Alyson, didn't go through. So I have very little say in public perception and less support for Alyson the human. And that's really hard because simultaneously, like you said, you know, actors and artists are thrown into the gauntlet of auditioning where our job is to win the studio's approval based on how truthful and compelling and honest we can make our performances. So we pull from real pain, we're using real vulnerability, and it takes a lot of mental and emotional dexterity to shift gears from how I approach the audition room to how I answer questions in a press junket to how I relate with fans and strangers who recognize me. You know, and I've been doing it since I was 6. So thankfully, like, I started therapy super young, and respectfully, like, we see how many of my peers are faring. They're not necessarily doing that well holistically.
Yeah.
But all that to say, coming out as a child star was going to bring layers, but it was also going to bring liberation for myself and for other people. So, you know, you do it anyway. You look at the risk, you know the sacrifice, and you go for it anyway. And you know, knowing that everything's going to be filtered through the receiver's bias, no matter what you try to do.
Yeah, it's I love the plug for therapy. A+. Everyone should be in therapy. It's fantastic.
Oh, absolutely.
But the other thing that I really love about this is like, so Ellie and I went last year for the first time to Klexicon, which is like a convention in Vegas all about like queer female representation in the media. We're going again in April. We're super pumped. And what's really interesting about that is an awful lot of the people who attend, like actors and stuff, are straight actors playing gay characters. And I think for them, it's always like really eye-opening to realize like how important their characters are to queer people. Because, you know, it is, there's like a vastly different thing when you don't have that same lived experience as your character. Right. And so it's so funny to like hear it from the complete opposite side now of being like, this is just like a person that I play. That's not me.
Right. And, and yet it is. It's the duality, right? It's everything is multidimensional. I am both 1,000,000% honest and 1,000,000% like confabulating everything as an actor. And I'm identifying, and yet I'll never totally know what a lot of those scenarios feel like. So it does help you empathize with with people of all walks of life. I will say that. But it definitely opened my eyes as well, even when I started to watch shows. I mean, of course, Orange is the New Black, like my ex and I would watch, and just seeing two women being affectionate with each other or rough with each other in just different ways with sexual tension, and being like so uncomfortable at first because it was never permitted in my other communities, and almost like getting nervous that someone might be watching it, judging me, and then finally becoming more and more comfortable as like, oh, this is normal. I'm not strange. I'm not awkward and off, and something's not wrong with me. And after I came out, people say it's not on purpose, but I ended up playing like 3 either bi, pan, sexually ambiguous characters like right after. And I was like, really? You didn't hear about the article, but now after 20 years, you want me for this? Okay.
Oh, an article? What article? What are you talking about?
Right. Amazing. You talk a little bit about like people seeing characters, but it also is really important for people to see real people in positions like yourself, like coming out and like, this isn't just my character, like this is me. So, I mean, I just think it is so important. What have been some of the positives about coming out publicly? I know obviously there have been a lot of hard things about it. What do you think are some of the positives?
Yeah, I mean, it's accompanied by a ton of personal transformation. It's sort of like the beginning of the unraveling of an old self that was kind of hiding and protecting my real self. And so I definitely am enjoying feeling empowered and liberated. And you can see it in my decisions. I'm saying yes to things and no to things in opposite ways. I'm navigating conversations differently. My values are making my decisions more than just kind of being afraid of doing the wrong thing or what people think. So it's just kind of in conjunction with overall liberation and empowerment. And then the interactions with people, it's almost like, you've been living in an invisible dome and you didn't know it was above you. You couldn't see, but everyone else was in on something. And now you get to like just talk at face value. What is this? What's really going on? And you're not protected by that weird barrier of like political correctness and like, we just don't talk about that. Keep that to yourself. Yeah. And now it's like, I came forward. So when I walk in the room, I know how you feel about me. Before, when I was hiding, I got to go into every room and just be a nice young girl. And now I can pretty much tell you what you believe.
Girl, come on.
But it's like you get to meet people in a whole new level of authenticity. But then that's how you have good conversations.
We also say all the time that like you come out and you sort of you have like a gay puberty,
Yes.
Because I feel like and I get like some people come out very young and like, or they know that about themselves very early. But I think for a lot of us, it's more common that you're coming out like maybe end of high school, college, even like after college. And so I feel like you kind of have to go through this like second puberty phase of being like, okay, I figured out how to be me. Now I have to figure out how to be like gay me.
Gay me?
Yeah.
Yeah, and just the emotions.
How has gay puberty been?
Oh, I love that term because I would bring this up with my therapist and say, I never grew up having crushes on guys, so I feel like I'm 11 near this woman, and it feels almost wrong.
Yes.
Like it feels inappropriate because I'm so mature and so capable in other facets since I started working at 6 years old. I'm like 85 in some regards, but then I'm also 6 and 12 and 18, like first love happening way later than my friends, and yet I've already told love stories on camera, and so it's just like very strange that I communicated stories about love, and I did it to the best of my ability. I pulled from what I knew and watched other people, but then when it happens to you, you're like, okay, I get it now. I feel this in my skin. I feel this in my body, and it's so overwhelming. It's so beautiful, but like, holy shit,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, it's scary. You get so nervous. Like, I remember before I came out, I was so confident around guys because I didn't give two shits about them.
Right.
And then I literally, like, trying to talk to women, I'm like, I don't.
Oh, yeah.
I can't.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, that's how one of the ways I knew is because people, like my female friends would come up to me and be like, how do you just flirt and flirt and flirt with the guys? And I'm like, what the fuck are you referring to? Because that's called a sense of humor. And it was literally me passing time because the small talk was super annoying. And I was distracted by like that woman over there. And then when they're like,
Aren't
you
we
know,
all?
they're right. And then they're like, just, go say hi to her or like, it's no big deal. That's when the sweaty palms and the quickened heart rate and all of that stuff happens. And I'm like, oh, damn it. Like these are all the indicators I need.
I think I'm going to pitch a sequel and we're going to call it 30 going on 13. And it's just going to be about coming out and going through your like awkward tween years of gay puberty.
Please let me be the lead. That I can relate to.
I mean, we weren't going to cast you, but I saw this article that I think might be relevant. Yeah. For
With something like 5 million podcasts, finding a really good one can take a ton of time. So let me recommend one. It's called Something You Should Know. I'm the host, Mike Carruthers, and in each episode, we discuss topics that can be really helpful, like how to read people better, the psychology of crowds, or fun things like the story of Legos, or why you probably wouldn't be here if it weren't for horses. Something You Should Know is the name of it, wherever you get your podcasts.
Contained herein are the heresies of Radolf Buntwine, erstwhile monk turned traveling medical investigator. Join me as I study the secrets of the divine plagues and uncover the blasphemous truth that ours is not a loving God, and we are not its favored children. The heresies of Radolf Buntwine, wherever podcasts are available.
Hi, I'm Laura Cathcart Robbins, and I am the host and creator of the podcast, Only One in the Room. Every week, my co-host Scott Slaughter and I invite you to join us and lose yourself in someone's only one story. The Only One in the Room has a wide variety of guests, from prisoners to abuse survivors to swingers. With 21 seasons and counting, we guarantee that Only One in the Room will have a story that you'll connect with. This podcast is for anyone who has ever felt alone in a room full of people, which is to say that this podcast is for everyone.
At Radiolab, we love nothing more than nerding out about science, neuroscience, chemistry.
But we do also like to get into other kinds of stories. Stories about policing or
Politics,
country music,
hockey,
sex, of bugs.
Regardless of whether we're looking at science or not science, we bring a rigorous curiosity to get you the answers.
And hopefully make you see the world anew.
Radiolab, adventures on the edge of what we think we know.
Wherever you get your podcasts.
Sure.
I actually was curious. Like, in the Teen Vogue article, you talked about how you felt like coming out would hurt your career. Some people said that to you. Have you seen those repercussions since the article came out?
Because it seems like you're killing it.
Thanks.
I mean, maybe it's just because we're in the gay community, so we're like, yes,
I know,
Alyson.
Right. That does happen. I have a few theories. I stopped working in the traditional market, and that allowed me to create my own content and make my own momentum from scratch. And I am kind of an insane hustler. So I do think that a lot of wonderful things have happened, but I do think a lot of it is because my team and I have been just going full out this year. And I will continue to do so. So thank you. I'm glad you noticed.
Yes.
But I don't know. There are still so many gatekeepers who are involved in such grimy things. Some of them are very homophobic. Others are actually conducting a lot of really inappropriate behavior that is like forcing young people to do things that they don't want to do with people they're not attracted to. So there's just a lot. There are a lot of secrets in Hollywood and in business. And I don't really want to be a part of that world. So I'm kind of doing my own thing. I'm accepting that will mean that I'm not going to be on a CW show. And for so long, like those were the coveted roles to get the series regular, baked into that. You have so many different income, like revenue streams, your fame and credibility, all of that grows. And I knew that I was going to be kind of a lone wolf. But in return, I would have these kinds of conversations with people, and I'd be able to travel and dive into the heartbeats of communities and actually serve with my platform instead of just glorify myself. So all that to say, no, I don't think it ended up being as much of a detriment, but that's because I didn't want to try and make their game work. Anyway, I would have to let you know if I went back. But once you experience an ounce of liberation, it's like, I don't have any incentive to turn around.
Have you considered moving to Canada? Because, man, they got nothing but, gay shit coming out all the time over there.
Really? Oh, that's amazing. See, I don't have a TV or Netflix, so...
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so I don't really even know what's happening. I probably should, so that I don't look completely ignorant. Yeah, but that's great. I love it.
It's a little absurd. And also I'm convinced that, everyone in Canada just lives next door to each other. I don't know. For such a big place, country. I don't know. They're just always posting stuff where they're like, oh, I went to the farmer's market and look who I ran into. And it's some oh, it's this star from this Canadian TV show that everyone's obsessed with. And you're like, how does that happen? I went to my farmer's market and I saw nobody.
That that seems accurate. I've worked in Canada quite a bit, and people are just chill. They're just kinder.
They are chill.
Yeah.
You're saying LA's not chill? Come on. I find that hard
anything
to imagine.
But. Even when people are high and claiming that life is easy with the palm trees and the breeze, the underlying anxiety and panic of this city is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever thought of moving from LA, or it's too much of a hub for you?
I have that thought a dozen times a day, and I still don't know where the next place would be, but I also in my gut feel like I might have a couple more years here before I switch home base. But yeah, it has a lot to offer, but it exaggerates whatever you're made of. It's a place to live out the extreme version of yourself. If that's your ego, cool. If that's your humanitarian work, cool. But it's pretty volatile, and I'm very simple. I'm I don't need extra chaos around me. I grew up in that. So when I look at the industry, I look at the city, to me, a way to prove that I'm growing would be to detach from those places and those people. And until I'm willing to do that, I have this little voice in my head that's you have to be braver, be courageous, step away from it. That's when you've really gotten healthier.
Yeah. Have you considered San Francisco? I hear it's most often described by LA people as freezing cold. So it's got that going for it.
I have a ton of friends from up north now, and I actually was just there for this little tech gathering, of course, San Francisco Tech. But yeah, I really liked it. So I might come visit.
It's a good vibe.
It's fun. It's a fun place.
You talked a little bit about serving with your work. What kind of things do you do to serve with your work?
So service can mean a lot of things. It can be flat out actually teaming up with an organization and going out and servicing a community and volunteering. I try to be really careful and mindful about that for obvious reasons. You can do more damage to the community if you're just showing up and thinking you're a savior of some sort. So, for those listening who are like, oh God, the actress thinks she's helping, yawn. I'm aware. I'm aware of the pitfalls and blind spots. And I try to do my research. So it can be that, but it can also be just helping unlock people and sort of expanding their consciousness by sharing ideas in small nuggets across my platforms. It could be a feed post. It could be a dance video. It could be the song that I'm choosing that just diversifies their vocabulary, increases their empathy for someone who's different from them. A lot of it is subliminal, but intentional. And I think helping people learn how to understand themselves so that they can understand others in the world is a gift. And of course, I'm on the journey as well. Sorry, they are doing maintenance in the background.
It's cool. It's like we could do like spoken word poetry to it. I love it.
Great. Perfect. So yeah, I think service is more of a posture of heart for me and an attitude and a lifestyle. So it's not about me just like giving any huge amount of money, which by the way, I don't have to give, contrary to public perception of people in the industry. It's more so just how I'm treating people and then looking at my ideas and going, who is this benefiting? And is it helping the majority who already has the help? Or how can I include different voices and perspectives here?
So I want to ask, because I know, and we've sort of touched a little bit on the faith aspect of this whole journey already, but I'm curious now as we're having this conversation, like how much does this factor in, and if we can jump back a little bit to that discussion, because I think it is important and it's not one that you hear a lot. You know, I think it's something that I think people are hesitant to touch on because A, it's so deeply personal, and B, it's like still very controversial in a lot of ways.
Yep.
You know, the prevailing presentation of religion and sexuality. Exactly. I think that's like a perfect encapsulation of it. If I was going to write a book, it would be like faith in being gay. Is great. So, but I'm curious, and it's something that I find really interesting because I did the same thing when I came out in high school. Like I grew up in the Catholic Church, and had to have that same kind of experience of saying like, you know, hey, these are things I'm realizing about myself that I know are true.
Right.
How do I reconcile, or can I reconcile that with what I believe? And how does that all kind of fit together, and what does that mean about me, and what does that mean about my faith, and what does that mean about faith in a bigger picture? And like there's so much that goes into that. Right. And so I really appreciated that was a big part of the article and something that you were willing to be very open about. So how does that, I'm just talking. It's fine.
We could have a whole episode on this
one. Oh my
topic.
God, so
there's
good.
There's
I know,
a lot to say. Yeah. I also grew up in the Catholic Church, Lee, so I feel you.
Yeah. Like as you're talking a lot about like how you see activism, how you see like service and things like that, like it seems like that probably also ties back a lot to some of those same conversations.
Yes.
And so I'm curious if you could just say a little bit more about like where did you sort of land now? Like where do those things all kind of fit together for you?
Yes. So I am a huge proponent of mystery. I really like to invite people into a place of curiosity and being willing to not know and not have to land somewhere. Because I think when you try and jump to any title, you know, from one to the next, I'm just leapfrogging from like, I'm a Christian straight woman to I'm no longer a Christian, like I'm an atheist lesbian or whatever those jumps tend to be. I'm in an imaginary transcendent place where those labels don't matter quite yet. And I'm specific about that because I want to be able to go, you know, give lectures at colleges and Christian colleges and talk about the experience, but still be invited. And you've got to be able to like straddle all these different groups and philosophies. So I think this is really complicated. I think faith has so many components. It's intertwined in, you know, infinitely unique ways with people's identities, from childhood upbringing, the particular religion, the subsect, the geography, socioeconomic position, national identity, early relationships with authority figures and how you'll relate to God, your sense of control or being out of control. Like I found that there were so many loving and well-intended people who are simply unaware of the larger map of their own belief system. And that happens inside and outside religious institutions. So by me falling in love with a woman, I got to unravel my own discrimination and racism and sexism and homophobia and all these other blind spots that were so subtly and like inconspicuously embedded in my particular faith teaching. And, you know, I think the most important takeaway is to then be able to challenge your own beliefs so much as though you're almost your own opponent, that you're forced to really dive in and figure out the historical origins, the influences, the social movements that contributed to what you learn and think today. And instead of, you know, using the process to become more narrow-minded, pursue expansion. And like, I think just remembering that my pastors and parents and teachers and friends, they all learned from someone who learned from someone else who learned from someone else. And like stuff gets passed down and around like a game of telephone. And, it ends up favoring certain people more than others, or it makes you feel really good about your own positions. And you don't even know that you're in a feedback loop. So it's not just religion. It was like, this is a call for growth and maturity. And I'm a citizen in society, and I need to understand the infrastructure of the systems in which I live, my own biology, all of that. And that's what I want to be able to encourage people to do when they're sorting through this, is like, we get so obsessive about this topic of sexuality. And sometimes you really do just need to talk about that exact thing. But I would say that's one component of the bigger and greater journey of knowing yourself, understanding the world, and like living a life of compassion for everyone. And religion, man, like that throws a lot of things. How many people, I'm sure you both having Catholic backgrounds, like there are so many people who are trying to be the manifestation of unconditional love. And they're the people from whom, I don't even know what the grammar is here, I'm too emotional, that I had the greatest pain and suffering because of conversations with them. So if you're listening, it's like, I'm not attacking religion, and I'm not even telling you where I landed, because that's not the point. The point is, are you able to love people better than you did yesterday? And if not, you might need to check what's going on inside. That's my soapbox.
Yes, I feel like every single episode, I like almost am at tears. This is my moment. This is my moment. No, that's really beautiful, because I think what you said about people trying to be a manifestation of unconditional love is how I like to view faith, is like, that is like, the teaching should be that you love everyone. And like honestly, if we just all did that, it would be so much easier. And there's just like so many other things that are compounded on top of that. So I really love that.
So, specifically in America, and I've brought this up in other interviews, Christianity in particular is still, it's kind of who's the parasite and who's the host in this. But like, there's militarism, there's capitalism, there is nationalism soaking in Christianity. It's not necessarily anything to do with God, but you'd think it was, because the Christian culture has become associated with all of these other things. And not everyone knows and can see that. Why would you, if you had no reason to challenge or change? So, thank God I fell in love with a woman and had to learn this the hard way, because on the other side, now I'm like, wow, I thought I was being inclusive. I thought. And man, like the fruit of my life was judgment, even when I thought it was love. I wasn't mad at people within the faith because they disagreed with me. I never was trying to make them think a certain way. They still couldn't see that it was also in their demeanor and their disposition and their ability to listen and accept and like validate a real experience. It's like basic emotional intelligence skills, really. And again, it's not just religion, but it's like, this is the whole us versus them in any capacity. Any illusion of separation is like such a waste of time. And so many people are capitalizing on it and banking on us staying divided. So like, the best way we could do this is actually working together and, upsetting some of the systems. That's a theory.
I have one quick petition, which is, can we get a shirt that just says, "Thank God I fell in love with a woman"? Yes, please.
Yes.
But also, I kind of want to use this discussion to pivot a little bit to something else that you do that I think are great, which are the urine mashups, because I think it's also something that I love, which is like part of this whole reinvention right now of like We're going to tell you what your career looks like to us, right?
Perfect.
Great. Because we're not projecting onto you anything at all. What are you talking about?
See, I beat you to it.
Of course we do. And we can't even see you right now, so it's great. I'll just, I'll picture you and your 48 mics and tell you exactly what's going on. But so what I feel like is something that I have thought is really interesting is the activism, not just including like service, but also commentary. And I think commentary is really important. And I think it's also something that seems like it's been really important to you as someone who is very aware of having a platform. But what I love is commentary that's tongue-in-cheek, and so the Year-End Mashups are like very much that. So what was the idea? Like, how did those get started, and how much freaking work are those to do? They're so involved.
My gosh. It's one of the most strenuous projects because, first of all, to accumulate the information, you're looking at hundreds of sites, and you're looking at events that happened every single day. And there are hundreds of events every day around the world that are worth noting.
Shit's going on right now, huh?
Yeah. And then
it's busy out there.
And then you have to look at the positions and people who are funding those sites and realize what biases are being spread and trying to get to the core of it. Then you get to choose, well, what's most important? Well, why should I be the one who decides what's most important? And then you have to look at your audience and go, well, if I am talking about Singapore the whole time, my American audience is just probably not going to care. So you got to balance that with the algorithm and with attention rates, because then the video will get lost if no one cares and blah, blah, blah. And all of your, hopes to educate people go to shit. And so the project is really difficult. The idea came up because I knew algorithmically that year-end mashups perform well. I also would watch the YouTube rewind videos and just be like, really? That's all you could do? And I know they have so many levels of PC and like brand whatever S&P, standards and practices, to like tell them what they can and can't do. And I don't. So I wanted to use that extra freedom. Up. Yeah, right. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And so I took a whack at it, and I didn't really mean to be left or right, red or blue. I didn't really mean to take a political stance as much as offer a place to review and summarize the events. Of course, the words that you use automatically imply a position. And that was really difficult for me because I had to make creative decisions knowing that if I'm defending one person, then I'm going against another person. And I don't want to be, I just want to present. And you just can't. At the end of the day, you have to say it somehow.
It's also like sometimes it's a little unavoidable for people to like read in a certain stance, because it's like, so I write like year-end trivia when we do like New Year's Eve every year, and that's what I kept saying this year is I'm like, I didn't write political questions, I just wrote factual things that happened, and like if the listener happens to hear a certain position, that's not my fault. But then at the same time I'm like, I feel like the year-end mashups, I'm like, it's like taking my year-end trivia and making it like 4 times longer, and then layering it all into like top hit songs of the year, and then also like choreographing it, and then also like do it. I mean, there's just...
think about it this way too.
It's a lot.
There are, because people will attack you for everything. So I try to outsmart the critic as often as possible to keep the focus on what I want them to focus on. And so think about like a song like Havana, Camila Cabello. So I don't know where she's from originally, but she, portrays the Latina image. So if I speak about a topic that has anything to do with the Latina population or Latina women or whatever, then it like amplifies the edge to why I decided to sing about that in that way to that song. And it puts me at risk also of the artist and the artist management coming back and being like, that was okay, that wasn't okay. We love that you did that. We hate that you did that. And so also like talking about, if I'm talking about something with the president, if I'm talking about it in a song, well, is that artist going to take down my video because they don't want to be associated? It's like all of these other things that people don't think about. They think I'm just having to put lyrics together. And I'm thinking like, who's going to come after me and what kind of weapon, because I don't own anything and I never took a self-defense class. So all I have are my words and a hug.
Hopefully that works.
Right. But yeah, I mean, that's this last year. It performed really well, and the response was insane. I could not believe. I think it's something like 50,000 plus likes and just over 1,000 dislikes, and I've never seen that kind of positive ratio on anything I've ever done. Like it's unheard of.
That's awesome.
So here's to 2019. I'm already taking notes.
Terms of and in terms of attention span, like I started watching it and I watched all the way through to the end.
Wow,
so attention
awesome.
span.
Cool. Yeah, that's what
which
people said.
also is I'm gonna cue Ellie because she has this question in our notes that I just think is great. So I'm gonna let Ellie ask that.
Did TMZ actually call your mother?
Yes.
Why were they calling her?
So I posted a response to, I think, 17 magazine. They made some kind of joke about like Hannah Montana or a pilot episode or something. And the information was inaccurate enough that I thought it was worth correcting, because I had my own show with Disney and it went up against Hannah Montana. And so it was like one or the other. Obviously, Hannah Montana went forward and mine was not greenlit. And so I just wanted to kind of correct that and clear that up. And then I said something like, if you really want to know the tea, ask me what happened on the set of Camp Rock. And that turned the internet into a frenzy. And TMZ within hours called my mother, like found her cell phone, which tells you how long I've been an adult and not a minor, because apparently her cell phone was still associated with me enough that they went to her instead of me directly. And and they were like, can we please be the one to break the story? Can we please tell the world what happened? And 17, of course, called and they were like, we would love to hear. We would love. And now I just have all of these cards and I'm looking at them and I'm like, haha, I get to drop them when I want and the way I want to. Because, of course, I got dirt on everyone. Like I could have dirt under my fingernails in an instant because I know exactly the spots to dig. But like so far, I prefer peace, and like putting anything too extreme out there, people won't even believe it, like the horrors that I've witnessed. And they'll also see me as, attention seeking and all of these other things. And so you kind of have to play your cards wisely. But I'm like just sitting over here, like just waiting to drop so many good
When you
things.
want to start your burn book podcast.
Wait, so are we breaking this on last Wait, we're breaking
It'll
it now?
probably
just come
be
see
my
us.
book.
We'll help get you hooked up with that podcast. That's all good.
Perfect.
Yeah. Wow. Also, we're all millennials. Everyone's still on their parents' phone plan. It's cool. Don't worry about it.
Right. I'm like, you found my mother's cell phone? The hell?
Yeah, that's wild.
And they called her multiple times, texted her. And I'm like, do you really think, my mother's in her, how old am I? She's mid 60s. I'm like, does she even know what a TMZ is?
Oh my God.
So
yeah, that's what the kids text each other these days, right?
Right. I'm like, just ignore it. Just ignore it. She'll probably listen to this too. So hi, Mom.
Aw, hey, Mom. Is it timely?
It might be time. I think so.
All right, it is time for our Q&Gay.
Q and gay.
Okay, so I'm gonna intro for you, Alyson. We do a segment on every episode. It's called Q and Gay, and it's sort of like a wrap up. It's also a chance for our listeners to join in. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna ask you some questions. They are yes or no or multiple choice. Many of them are stuff we probably have already covered in the course of our conversation. But what we'll also do is put them up on our Twitter, and that way our listeners can answer as well.
Okay.
So welcome to your very first Q and Gay.
Yay.
I'm nervous.
I will kick it off with, oh no, they're fine.
It's pretty easy.
There's no wrong answers
questions
in Q and Gay.
You said it's multiple choice?
Yes.
Or yes or no. Yeah. And Max can have 4 options because Twitter polls can only have 4 options. So there you go.
Got it.
Question 1. What superlative would you most have wanted to win in high school? Most likely to be famous, class clown, most likely to be queer, or most likely to play Channing Tatum's little sister.
Oh my gosh. C, final answer.
Perfect.
I think
Perfect
we'll have
answer.
a lot
Also,
of people with C for
pick up your
listener
most
base.
likely to be queer shirts. Where?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
You have
I
those
know.
shirts.
I have those sweatshirts, but we only did it for a limited time, so I can't even do like a cool merch plug here.
Oh,
So
no.
if
Not
you
a
see
great
someone wearing them,
businesswoman.
take their shirt.
If you have one of the limited run shirts, send them to us. Send your
Oh
pictures.
my god, yes, send us a picture. Love it.
Yes. Oh, so good.
Question number 2. Are you LGBTQ plus and religious? Yes or no?
Whoa. Ooh.
I know.
We're just making it
actually,
nice
maybe
and
that's a hard
open-ended,
question.
right?
Yes, no, or gray area.
Yeah, I'm very gray. Very
All right,
gray.
Okay, number 3. So I'll have to give a little bit of the background here, but since you kicked us off with this whole discussion on neuroscience, so I did my PhD in chemistry. So I feel like we have to ask to get our listener weigh in. What's cooler, neuroscience or chemistry?
Whoa. Wow. Oh, I'm such a nerd that this is actually plaguing me. I mean,
Secret option C is like it's all really chemistry anyways, it's fine.
right, that's what I was like, how specific are we getting? Let's just say science. Science rocks.
is cool, guys. All right, number 4. What's the best Missy Elliott music video? A, The Rain, B, Work It, C, WTF, or D, Get Your Freak On?
I'm still going to say D, Get Your Freak On, because that kind of paved the way for all, like, Work It and for me to exist.
Amazing.
That's legit. It's fair. Okay, question 5. What is your favorite Alyson Stoner YouTube video? Chime in, Alyson Stoner, out of the options. A, Missy Elliott tribute. B, Havana dance video. C, Fools. Or D, 2018 year in review.
My favorite video, since we've talked about the mashup, then will be Fool, because I got to be really kind of contemplative and easygoing and meditative and not try to overperform anything. It was like legitimately effortless, and I wanted to capture myself in my most natural state, and we did that, and that felt
Nice.
vulnerable and nice. Yeah.
Nice. So your most natural state is with a kitten.
Yeah, the symbolism there is
I love it.
Not lost on us one bit.
yeah, right? I mean, you'd be surprised at how many people didn't put that together. I'm like, I just kissed a woman. Did we not? Okay.
Let me tell you who didn't put that together. Straight people. Come on. They miss everything. Goes straight over their heads.
Question number 6, which has to do with the music video. This question is, what's the best ship name for Alyson and Jasmine? A, Jazzison. B, Alaman. C, Jazzly. Or D, Stonins.
I feel like they all sound too close to like jazzercise or
Yes.
like Pepto-Bismol medicine or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
like
Alaman
something
definitely
about
sounds like something you
Alaman
take
was
for a
like,
cold.
yes. Can I do like a different option?
Yes, please.
Like a wild card? Because I texted her this and I was like, Jasmine, more like Jasmine. So maybe it's like Alamine, like all mine.
Okay, I like that.
or
I like
something.
that.
Yeah.
I like it. That's amazing.
Amazing. Yeah, I honestly am the worst at making up those names, but I love it.
Congrats. See, you made it. Q and Gay. It's not so
Yay!
bad.
Okay, good.
And a reminder, everyone, you can give us your answers to this episode's Q and Gay on our Twitter at Let's Hang Out Pod.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Alyson, thank you so much for hanging out with us. This has been so
Thank
fun.
you. Good. I'm glad.
Where can our listeners find you?
Where can they find me? Well, with my hammer here, just fixing their...
Yeah, just look for construction in the LA area.
Yeah, right?
And,
you're gonna have so many times that I'm like breathing and laughing into this microphone, and I feel so sorry for whoever is going to be editing. Hi, I appreciate you and your work and effort.
It's me.
Oh, okay, so
It's
hi,
Ellie.
I appreciate you and your time. People can find me and follow me at Alyson Stoner on Instagram, The Real Alyson Stoner for my YouTube channel. Twitter and Facebook, I think, are just my name as well. And my podcast will be starting soon. I'm hoping to call it Simplexity, where we simplify complex
Very cool.
concepts. Yeah.
Wow.
Is
That's
it not
awesome.
the Bird Book podcast that we were just describing? Because I'm waiting for that one.
Yeah, I mean, the beautiful thing is I can do whatever I want to do. So we can make multiple podcasts because I am a multi-hyphenate, as we
Exactly.
There you
as we
go.
labeled me. Just trying to keep up.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We also know you have a new single coming out on the 25th, Stripped Bare. Anything, any sort of like teasers or what we should be looking out for that?
Oh, I know it's not necessarily the most joyful thing to mention, but the song is it's really bittersweet. It's starting to tell some of the hidden stories that I was mentioning with, family and chaos, and also having teams of people around you who, sometimes take advantage of you. And so the song is about being at a ground zero. The title Stripped Bare kind of implies having nothing left. But it's not a sad song. It's just the beginning of something new. It's the rise of the phoenix. So,
nice. I mean, let me tell you what, Ellie and I, both lesbians, let me tell you what lesbians love: processing, feelings, angst. All things that are like high on lesbian lists. Come on.
Yeah. True. Well, do I have the single for you.
Excellent.
Do you have a music video coming out for it?
I am filming that this weekend. And
nice.
The music video is going to have a huge moment in it. And I am so excited about it. Yeah,
I'm very excited as well.
Quite a good
I'm like, it's
cliffhanger.
probably gonna be the thumbnail. Like, whoa, yeah.
Is it two kittens?
We're going above and beyond kittens.
A cat. Amazing! I cannot wait. We're super pumped,
and we are really excited. Alyson's going to be doing an Instagram story takeover this week, so send us your questions, and she will answer some of those.
Yes, please do.
Amazing. Alyson, thank you again. This has been so much fun. We can't wait for the podcast. We can't wait for the music video and or whatever else is coming up. And I'm already pumped for 2019 Year in Mashup.
Woo! Yes. Thank you so much.
Let me hear you say hip, 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 we're gay.
Welcome back to Hip Hip, We're Gay. We love hearing from you and building our community, so we wanted to shout out some of our favorite things each episode. The first thing we'd like to shout out is Audible Feast, who featured us on their best podcast of the week for our I Love Lucy Should Have Been Gay episode, which was really exciting because I love Lucy, and I'm just happy that somebody else found that episode to be great. So that's all. So thank you, Audible Feast.
We just love finding reviews of ourselves because we are vain, self-involved people.
Well, it's also really cool because we are just two random girls sitting in our prospective rooms and garages, and we're on lists with NPR podcasts and the Times Magazine podcast. There's some really awesome other podcasts on that list with us, and it is really it's really cool. So it's all thanks to you. Thanks
Audible Feast.
And thanks, Audible Feast.
As always, we also want to thank our top tier lesbian Jesus patrons, Amy and Ellen,
Kayla Kelly,
Lizette Stye,
Tanya Ferguson,
Jess Klaus,
Danny Griswold,
Michelle Ray Thomas,
and Mark Foster.
We could not do everything without all of you. Thank you so much for all of the support. We have one final shout out for this week's Hip Hip We're Gay, which is we want to shout out our fave and former guest on the podcast, May Rude, who was so excited about Alyson Stoner being on the podcast. So thank you, May. And as an extra special treat, here is another installment. It's been a hot minute of May is Reading Comics.
May is reading comics and she likes a lot of comics and she's got a list of comics for you.
Maggie Thrash has great stuff. Honor Girl is this memoir about going to a camp where she learned how to shoot target shooting And then also like it was when she like had her first like coming out or like, girl, whatever thing, Mariko Tamaki, Jillian Tamaki, sister, they worked together on a lot of books. This One Summer, Skim. Oh, Rosemary. Shoot, I always mess up her last name. Rosemary. Oh, shoot. Valero O'Connell. She's super great, based out of Minneapolis. She's like also one of the greatest artists I've ever seen. She's illustrating a new book with Mariko Tamaki called Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me that is coming out soon, and it's going to be so good. It's like about queer girls. It's going to be beautiful, and the writing's going to be amazing.
Remember, you can also find us on all the social medias, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Let's Hang Out Pod.
Or you can email us at letshangoutpod@gmail.com.
Or check out our website at letshangoutpod.com.
If you are enjoying the podcast, make sure that you subscribe so that you get new episodes as soon as they release.
We're also going to be posting every other Thursday on our YouTube channel this season, so make sure you subscribe at youtube.com/letshangoutpod.
If you want to help support the podcast, there are a couple things that you can do. Number one is easy and free. It is to rate and review us on iTunes. It helps other people find the podcast, and that is a huge, huge thing for us.
If you want to support us financially, which we really, really, really appreciate, you can do so at Patreon, and you can find that at bit.ly/lespatreon. You get some really cool perks like blooper reels and viewing parties, and also ad-free episodes, which is awesome for only $1 a month. So it really helps us, and we appreciate all of you.
We also have merch, so you can check out our store at TeePublic. It is at bit.ly/lesshop. Get yourself some cool tees, get yourself some cool tanks, get yourself a cool Screw Hall shirt. We have all sorts of good stuff. New designs coming all the time, and I think we just had a sale. Is that right?
Yes.
So probably more sales coming up soon. Keep an eye out. We like to post about them. But definitely check that out. Get your swag in time for ClexCon.
And if you want to find us individually, you can find me at Ellie Brigida on Instagram and Twitter.
You can find me at LSH Foster on Instagram and on Twitter.
And with that, I'm Ellie.
And I'm Lee. And let's hang out again soon.
Let's hang out.
Ladies and gentlemen.
What are you doing?
What do you mean?
Just keep it simple.
I'm making the promo.
Just keep it simple. Just say, hey, we're the Brav Bros. Two guys that talk about Bravo.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we're the Brav Bros.
No.
Oh.
Dude, stop with the voice. Just keep it simple.
I've seen promos on TV, dude. This is how you get the fans engaged. This is how you get listeners. We're trying to get listeners here. If we just say, oh, we're two dudes that talk about Bravo, people are going to get tired of it already. We need some oomph.
All right, then fine. Let's try to do it with your voice.
Brav Bros.
Good job.